Welcome back, everybody, to the show. What a night last night was. Let's check in on it. Here's Benny Johnson.
Okay, Spenny, Turning Point just mogged the NFL tonight in the single greatest culture war victory in my lifetime with the defeat of the NFL's woke, cringe, derivative, foreign, unintelligible, Spanish-speaking, no-hit songs played halftime show that nobody could understand and that everybody is saying across the internet, the single worst halftime show in NFL history.
Okay, if you're not in high school, don't use the word mogged unironically. Just a little piece of advice to any of the audience members out there. Don't use the word mogged unironically if you don't have to go to geometry class, okay? That's just a little rule. If you're not in Algebra 2, don't unironically use the word mogged. Benny, you're 40. Which is fine, great, young still, but just as far as that term goes, too old for the term. I'm too old for the term. Now, he says no hits. Let me just quickly, Bad Bunny, 1 billion streams, 1 billion streams, 1 billion streams, 2 billion streams, 846 million streams. He has some hits. Okay, let me just tell you for a second. Now, here's what I thought was great about the Bad Bunny halftime show. And I won't say I was completely intrigued the whole time. I got a little bit into it and I was like, okay, I got a little bit bored. Happened to. But the actual aesthetic, the performance, the message was beautiful. And what's funny is, like, if at a halftime show or at a performance of any kind, an artist wears red, then Maga will say it was demonic. They were doing satanic symbolism. If they say too many things that are sexual, or if someone takes their shirt off, then this is degenerate. And it's kind of like Bad Bunny said, I'm going to structure this perfectly. And the greatest mogging of Maga will be me not trying to mog them. Because it was kind of uncontroversial. Like, but still Maga found a way, all the way up to the president of the United States, to be upset with his Super Bowl halftime performance. That's what we're going to talk about in this segment. Again, welcome to the show. Look at this. This was the message on the big Jumbotron. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. Says Maga. Very strange. I don't know if you're a healthy person, if that triggers you this much. And then it's exciting that we got to be at the game. Look at that. This is a very real photo of us enjoying the game at what looks to be the wrong field. Is that the right field? So really good Photoshop work being done there. You can see, again, the imagery is just beautiful. I think his football said, like, we're all American or something. There's an American flag, other flags there. It just all around was kind of a positive message. From what I don't speak Spanish, so maybe I missed it and he said something crazy in Spanish. But from what the reporting has been and the English, Jumbotron words, it seemed to be just a very uncontroversial message. And then kind of beautiful, there was a real wedding that took place during the halftime performance, if you didn't see it. That apparently was real. They actually got married in the middle of a halftime show, which is epic, and now makes me feel so nervous about what I do at my wedding if I have to compare. And I want to show you some of these reactions. I want to show you what Benny Johnson described as the TPUSA halftime show that mogged the NFL. But remember, even just strategically, when they act like it was such an affront that Bad Bunny was speaking Spanish, there are tons of Spanish speakers in the United States. And even beyond that, it kind of makes sense that for an event like the Super Bowl, you could widen the audience by picking Bad Bunny as your performer to get more people tuned in. And apparently the ratings were really, really good. But I saw CNN reporting Super Bowl reaction. Trump, who skipped the Super Bowl and attended a watch party in Florida, which I'll show you. I think I have the post. It looks like they were playing the Bad Bunny halftime show at Trump's Mar-a-Lago viewing party. Called last night's Bad Bunny's halftime performance a slap in the face. and claimed nobody understands a word said by the Puerto Rican music star. To which I saw a center-right conservative who I just debated, and we'll go over this on today's show, or I debated on his show, Brad Palumbo, said, do you ever really understand many of the words at these types of performances? Well, even if they're speaking in English, a lot of times it just sounds like blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if you need to freak out so much over that. Then Trump posted, the Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense. Is an affront to the greatness of America. Is it not an embodiment of the greatness of America? Okay. And doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, and or excellence. Guys, he's one of the biggest artists in the entire world. The NFL is trying to get a larger audience and it works. So nobody understands a word this guy's saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. The most dancing I saw was just that. Is that so disturbing? Just a little booty shake. This show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401ks in history. There's nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show. And watch, it will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue of what's going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. So he was upset. But hypocrite Trump, as the Daily Beast reports, was busted showing Bad Bunny's show at his own Super Bowl party. Oh no. Maybe they had a different TV. So if you missed this, it became such a culture war. Maga saying that Bad Bunny, because of his critiques of ICE and the fact that he speaks Spanish, is some affront to America as opposed to a beauty of America, or an embodiment of the different cultures and the different backgrounds of people. And so then it became this huge thing, an example of how MAGA uses dumb culture wars to distract from more substantive issues. And TPUSA said, we're going to do a real all-American halftime show. And again, we're going to get to how that happened or how that went. But it looks like Mar-a-Lago Screens had Bad Bunny's halftime show on, which is kind of fascinating. A little bit more Daily Beast reporting before getting to the TPUSA stuff. What could have been a protest that stoked the fire that is already an exhausting inferno from a party of pyrotechnic pundits and politicians was instead something they'd look foolish to criticize or herald as anything other than American in its best, most vibrant form. It was an irresistible dance tour through the intrinsically Latin American part of our country's culture. How the population works, lives, kicks back, throws down, and finds joy. How they love. It was, okay, maybe that's putting it a little bit expansively. I missed some of that, but okay. It was a mirror to all Americans, reminding us of our communities, our neighbors, our families, and our cultures. Every image was analogous, so specific to the Latin experience, yet so universal to the American experience, so recognizable. And so a lot of praise there for what was going on under the surface. And again, I do really want to praise Bad Bunny for, as this article notes, doing what I think was the most powerful message, knowing that this halftime show had become a big battle line for MAGA, which was choosing a message of love and inclusion as opposed to even outright creating a protest against MAGA. Here was Adam Sandler's response.
What did you think of halftime?
Oh, Benita was unbelievable. Loose, happy, made everybody ecstatic. I loved it. And congrats to the bunny. He's a great human being.
Awesome. Fly safe.
The bunny. Nailed it. Now, one thing that some people are noticing, this is a clip from streamer XQC's stream, where there's speculation that maybe the numbers were being juiced up on the TPUSA halftime show stream because while there was millions of viewers, the chat wasn't moving at all. Maybe that was a glitch, but this is XQC realizing it. And then listen to the performance that was going on. Very, very unique. I like how, okay, Benny Johnson just said he didn't like the show because, and then a bunch of descriptors, but one of the things he cited, at least in a post, if he didn't say it, there was a lack of creativity. A lot of people were saying that in the right wing. All right, well then let's check in on the deep creativity from this artist at the Turning Point halftime show.
Yo, is the chat frozen? I don't get it. Live chat, it's not loading it.
I just wanna catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
Guys,
Not wake up to all this
Hello?
stuff I don't wanna hear.
hello?
Same kind of gun I hunt with, just killed another man.
So, I had never heard, which was so profound about this, a country music artist talking about their truck and their beer and fishing and hunting. Go give me a little something, Cole. I'm a little sad, and I've been bad as I sit in my truck. What the fuck? Sometimes while I'm fishing, I say what? When I think about a white lady's butt. Thank you. So maybe stop. All of you. Did you understand that, Benny? Is that more creative to you, Benny? So ridiculous. Now we're gonna have real creativity. I have a gun and I fish and I hunt and I drink beer on the beach. Corona. It's like, okay, we heard that motif before in country music, but you're thinking, wasn't Kid Rock there? He was, and apparently this event was pre-recorded. And they still somehow managed to botch his lip syncing with his actual singing.
My name is
Oh, that's not the part I was thinking of. Let's see if I can find the clip of the lip sync disaster. Look at this. So, podcast listeners, picture Kid Rock singing a whole sentence behind where the track is. They didn't even try to sync that up. It was pre-recorded, supposedly. No indication was given during the TPUSA alternative Super Bowl halftime show of whether it was live or where the performances were taking place. But sources say the show was pre-taped in Atlanta with a paid audience was one of the things people were claiming. So it's sad. You would think you'd be able to go retroactively sync up the audio or something if the lip syncing was that brutally off. Sorry, one more time.
Live chat, it's not loading it.
I just wanna catch my fish.
That's right. It sounds like he said kiss my fish. I just wanna kiss my fish. Hey baby, you ever sucked on a good bass? That's a pickup line. I got a nice catfish below the belt.
I just wanna catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
Chewy.
Not wake up to all this
Hello?
stuff I don't wanna hear.
So true. Before we started recording, I played that part and I said to Jaden and Cole, what do you think is the one other thing he's going to name? And Jaden said hunting. And he said hunting next. But that's the epitome of creativity, supposedly. Luckily, some conservatives, like Meghan McCain, posted stuff like, I'm sorry, but I genuinely question your taste level if you didn't enjoy the Bad Bunny halftime show. And everything in life doesn't have to be ruined with politics. True. Also, you didn't have to like it. Like, if you got bored or you were going, I can't really understand the lyrics and I'm a lyric person, fine. There's no problem with that. It's the moral panic they try to spark of like, this is the downfall of America and this is a slap in the face, which was Trump's wording, to all real Americans, wank wank. And we what do we need another? It's just confusing to me. Even if I wasn't as compelled as I would have been with a different artist that I knew their songs better, it's fun that there's something different. As opposed to like someone gets up there and sings for the 5. I grew up in Texas, so do you want to know the amount of times I heard about fishing and hunting after getting out of the pickup truck? Too many times. I don't need to hear that again. Guys, I was gonna just put this on for that joke, but cute alert, I'll just keep the hat on. I think is what we what Jaden was
You're my daddy.
mouthing to me. To everyone watching live, if you're not watching the clips later or listening to the podcast afterwards, I do see your comments coming in and people becoming members. I'll read that in between segments or after the show. So hold for that. Pedro said Bad Bunny invited a couple to tie the knot on stage during his halftime show, held a wedding for them, made the only thing stronger than hate is love, and together we are America, his slogans, and the new right went insane. That's why it'll never win the culture war. To normal people, it just looks like a movement of psychotic political zealots, and that's because it is. That's true. I think with that beautiful of message, people got married. Wouldn't they... If it were an artist that had a conservative history, I think they would have depicted this as the greatest moment for America ever, to put at the center of a halftime show the institution of marriage. Like, that was at the center of the show. That would have been, wow, finally, Trump is back. This is what Trump has created in America. We finally respect marriage again. And just because it was Bad Bunny, they act like it was somehow super degenerate or something. And in response to Trump's post about this, Piers Morgan even said, I could not disagree more, Mr. President. I absolutely loved Bad Bunny's halftime show. Amazing. Best in Super Bowl history. Theater, choreography, great energy, superbly confident performance. Excuse me. And very welcome unifying message. Oh, and Spanish is first language for 50 million plus Americans. So Piers is pro the bunny. Kim Iverson said conservatives right now, that Bad Bunny halftime show was woke in all things immoral and bad. While a couple legally got married during the show, promoting to the largest possible audience the most conservative value of all. Meanwhile, Kid Rock opens his TPUSA halftime show with a song about strippers, hookers, crackheads, gangsters, and porn, but that's way more American, they say. Probably. So what do you think they really mean? Is it the message or is it something different? Mike said, just want to reiterate, the quote-unquote wholesome alternative to Bad Bunny's Spanish language performance was rapping, lip-syncing badly apparently, about topless dancers and G's with the 40s and the chicks with the beepers. Pack up your self-righteousness and take a hike, TPUSA. This is a bad joke. It's just embarrassing. Like, I wasn't very compelled by the TPUSA halftime show, and I'm not saying that's indicative of the downfall of American culture. It's just sort of like, oh, so a show I didn't like. Okay, that's life. I went to the ACL Music Festival this year. Some of the things I liked, some of them I didn't. That's called art. Charlie Puth saying, I don't know if I can play this. They'll probably copyright the hell out of us, but he sang the national anthem, and it was so beautiful. And this is you could get feeling so patriotic about this. The blend of cultures and languages and art and the depiction of different aspects of America, including the strength of America, where during the national anthem, you have the jets fly over, and it's like, wow, there's so many different things. Lady Gaga gets up on stage with Bad Bunny. There were so many different artistic elements included. But I really do think some people just put such thick political lenses on that they can't enjoy anything anymore. And they just have to make it a part of a culture war. And if the person performing is not screaming that they love Trump, then MAGA doesn't like it. And it kind of reminds me of this. Redfin had an ad that was called Be a Good Neighbor. And I'm going to read from this right-wing account, Cernovich, what he took away from it, and then I'm going to play the ad for you. So this account says, more anti-white agitation. This is the kind of propaganda you see before a genocide is attempted. I hope people understand. So let's watch the ad in question and see if we pick up on the anti-white genocidal messaging. Let's watch.
It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. Beautiful day for a neighbor. neighbor? Would you be mine?
I know it's hard, sweetie,
Could you be
but you'll still see Dad.
It's a
Who is
neighborly
that?
day in this beauty wood. A neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine?
Frankie, stop.
Could you be mine?
Big storm coming in.
I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like
Where are you? Frankie?
I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful
Thank you so
day.
much.
Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't
Okay.
you be my neighbor?
Thank you so much.
Please, won't you be my neighbor?
What? Wait, what was the... So, podcast listeners, the images that were taking place with that song was sort of one family moving into a neighborhood, and initially their neighbors, which I guess because their neighbors were white, he feels like the fact that they were antagonistic for a second means they're being depicted as terrible because they're white. And they were it wasn't even anything terrible. It just seemed like the white neighbors were kind of not being a super good neighbor for a second, like not saying hi. And then they become good neighbors. It's a a story of change, of redemption. Redfin Rocket Mortgage. It's redemption. And you see, you're messed up in the head, people. You're messed up in the head. Stop seeing moral panic everywhere. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. And I have to say, a little embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself. Jaden, what are the results of the poll? We did a poll. Did you like Bad Bunny's halftime performance? Let's see. Jaden's checking.
I think it was...
You ended it already?
I ended it, but we had 1.3 thousand votes with over 90% approving.
Well, I mean, how much more scientific can it get? The people I love whenever people try to convince you that because their audience doesn't like something, no one likes something. Like Bad Bunny. Benny Johnson was saying everyone on the internet hates Bad Bunny's performance because he's on the right-wing internet. But then for me, we do a poll and people are like, yeah, sure, like it. And I'm not saying that because it was Bad Bunny, the reverse, that you had to love it. You could have also been like, I don't know, I was bored. A lot of the Super Bowl things, like even the commercials used to be more entertaining, I thought. And this time I was kind of bored by them. The game, terrible. Don't ask if I bet on anyone. Don't ask that question. Don't ask if I bet on the underdog and live to regret it. I don't bet. Come on. Quick thanks before getting into our next story that I think you're going to enjoy. I did a little debate with a Trump fan that I'm going to play some clips for you from. Mystique Darq became a member by clicking the join button below. Now has access to every bonus show we've ever done, which contains in it some of the best content. Quizlet1 became a member as well. Leandro Surech. I can't tell where the spaces are. That's the problem on these ats, so that I do apologize. Also became a member and sent a super chat. Bill Bay Baggins said, today is my 49th birthday, and I treated myself to the Lukey No Nuki shirt. My wish is for you to please ask everyone to be kind to animals. Love you, Luke, Jaden, and Cole. So, Bill Bay Baggins, first of all, happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day. Second of all, I'm glad you got the shirt. Third of all, everyone be kind to animals, these beautiful creatures. And fourth of all, LukeBeasleyMerch.com if you want to get yourself some merch. We will read more comments and thank more members in a little bit, but let's talk about this now. I appeared on Brad Palumbo's channel to debate a MAGA guy named Tyler O'Neill. You can see this is his account. I'll show you some clips from it. We debated both, and for context, Brad Palumbo's sort of center right, but he'll call balls and strikes on a lot of things. He's not super partisan in either direction. And so he was the moderator, and then Tyler O'Neill's more partisan, and I debated him on the subject of Don Lemon's arrest, what this indicates about Trump's lack of respect for the First Amendment. And then something that I haven't gotten to debate publicly too frequently, but was really fun to do here, was gay marriage. Tyler O'Neill, who's the senior editor for the Daily Signal, he is very anti-gay marriage, and he's supporting a campaign to try to overturn Obergefell. And so you can see there, he says he's a senior editor, Daily Signal, author, Making Hate Pay, and the Woketopus. Fun! Isn't it gonna be fun? The Woketopus. Okay, and one thing that cracked me up, the second part of our analysis of this debate will be about the gay marriage issue, so do wait for that throughout this segment. For that, he broke this up into 2 videos. I was described as gay liberal. Just very simply, gay liberal versus Christian conservative. Okay, I see you, Brad. I feel reduced, but nevertheless, let's jump in on what we talked about with Don Lemon's insane arrest by the Trump DOJ. Here it is.
To be prosecuted under them, in your view?
Yeah, from my reading, I think the indictment is rather clear. Don Lemon did conspire with, or at least he's accused of conspiring with, the agitators who carried out this church invasion. So there are 3 main claims here that the indictment makes against Don Lemon.
So this is Tyler, and he's trying his best. I even say it at some point. He's trying his best to defend Trump being a lunatic. And he'll say it in like nice, flowery language, but I don't think it really holds up to the video that we have of the event.
First, he conspired ahead of time. And then, as we saw in his live stream, he withheld certain information, saying he doesn't want to give away where this action is going to take place. That, many people think, and I'm among them, differentiates him from being a reporter just saying what was happening and making him more of an activist involved in the action itself. Furthermore, you see during the actual activity, yes, he is not chanting ICE out. He is not chanting things like "we shut this down" like the other people there were chanting, which I think is very revealing. But he did physically get in front of the pastor, and it was him and 2 others who were kind of flanking the pastor and forcing the pastor back.
So remember, before I play more of this, and I will jump in to analyze, you got to do that. You got to transform the clips if you're going to play someone else's content. And so to start with, if you don't know the context of this, the reason the Trump DOJ is saying Don Lemon was arrested is because he impeded worshipers' ability to worship by, quote unquote, participating in an obstructive protest inside of a church during a church service. We watched the video many times. You can find those segments. He's covering the protest as a journalist. So to go after him is insane. And then to pretend like this was as insane of an act as MAGA is pretending makes me not take you very seriously. People walked into a church that was unlocked, chanted, made noise because one of the pastors worked for ICE. And that did obstruct the service. If you have law in the books, you have law in the books. But for certain, to say Don Lemon and others who were arrested for doing journalism, filming and interviewing people should be put in jail or should be prosecuted means you don't care much about the First Amendment.
And according to the indictment, what you see him doing is getting very physically up in front of the pastor. And then when the pastor, kind of tries to back away, Don Lemon acts as though the pastor is pushing him. Meanwhile, Don Lemon, the pastor asked Don Lemon to leave.
Okay, so we get his point. Let's see when a man by the name of me gets to talk. Let's go.
And I think they have not gotten the sort of condemnation that they deserve.
All right, Luke, I want to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, I mean, this topic is pretty easy for me because, like, Tyler, I thought you did a good job of trying best you could in the least embarrassing way possible to explain why this makes any sense. When, in my case, I don't have to do much arguing because we have the video of it, and I think any rational adult can watch Don Lemon walking in very peacefully and interviewing people and covering. And I also know that if it were Nick Shirley going, guys, I got an advance tip that there were going to be left-wing agitators in this church. And so I walked in and I asked the pastor what he thinks about it. And I filmed the protesters. No one would have a problem with it. And no one would think it was anything other than journalism. This was obviously him reporting on a notable event. And the broader event, even if you can find technical laws that were violated, any rational adult goes, really? They're reacting this strongly to people walking into a church and speaking loudly. This is from the same people who are happy that Trump pardoned people who violated the FACE Act and previously were acting like the FACE Act was unconstitutional and it was an outrage that under the Biden administration anyone would be prosecuted under that. And obviously I will bring it up ultimately just because I know it's an important principle and I think it fleshes out consistency. But if, I don't know where Tyler stands on this, but if he's not 10 gazillion times outraged by Trump pardoning January 6ers, even the violent ones, then I have zero interest in what he has to say on this because obviously it's not consistent. And pretending like that was an appropriate protest at the Capitol trying to block the certification election, but then thinking this was like the worst thing since who knows when is completely ridiculous. And again, we're not even talking about, as Brad referenced, the broader protests, which I guess you could have more to say about, even though I still think the reaction from the right has been a little bit silly. But definitely Don Lemon going in there. If you watch that video and you see him, what was the word you used, as an invader who's trying to prevent people from worshiping as opposed to capturing on video and interviewing people about a protest that was going on and them speaking loudly near other people in a church, then I think that you're purposefully distorting what actually happened.
Okay, just real quick. Say what you will about Tyler O'Neill. Say what you will. I have to respect his eyebrow game. I was almost getting distracted during the debate at how those eyebrows were a-moving. It was almost an eyebrow gyrate. There was some shaking and some moving. Look at this. Ready?
Other people in a church, then I think that you're purposefully...
Yes, I love that. And I'm not even being sarcastic. I do love when people are able to, without interrupting, say a lot with their face. I do think there's something fun about that, because then you get to tell the audience what you think of what the person's saying without having to jump in and interrupt. These were put on Brad Palumbo highlights. If you look at Palumbo highlights, you'll be able to find the full thing. I do encourage you to go watch the full debate after we review some of these clips. Let's jump in here on the same topic. Again, we're building to what I thought was the most fun topic to debate, which is Tyler O'Neill trying to overturn same-sex marriage, marriage equality, and obviously me advocating for marriage equality.
Okay, Tyler, your response to that.
Yeah, so when you watch, I mean, this is not people just standing there talking. This is people who are bragging about shutting down a church service. I mean, it's in their own words where they're saying, who shut this down? We shut this down.
Don Lemon was chanting that?
No, I'm not claiming Don Lemon was. Well, so you drew the
Don
claim.
Lemon was filming the event, as you know, and you watched the video, and he wasn't doing anything that you could portray as illegal. So then you're just trying to justify what is Trump's whole goal here, which is punishing people he doesn't like.
And preventing the pastor from giving his sermon during the time when the pastor was set to be giving the sermon.
You watched a different video.
I mean, the video is very clear what he was doing at that point. He is going up in front of the pastor who's trying to give a sermon, and the pastor tells him directly.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
The pastor tells him directly, we want you to leave because we're trying to worship God. And he essentially says, oh, I'm always worshiping God. And then while he's constantly asking him, no, I mean this, but this is the thing, right? They didn't go outside the church and post their picket signs.
Talk about Don, please.
Well, yeah, Don didn't either. Don went in with everybody. He knew what was happening, and he chose to enter that church.
So I think that I think you get disappointed. I'm trying to give him enough time to talk without just playing the entire debate. But I think that they're watching a different video, or as I said before, it's like if it were Nick Shirley, if it were Jesse Waters or a Fox News producer going, one of the protesters told me they're about to go into the church, so I'm going to go in and film it and interview the pastor about how he feels about it. There'd be no world where the Trump DOJ is saying we're arresting that journalist. Zero. And it's funny because you notice in this debate, I might be willing even to debate the broader protest, but we weren't even doing that. We were debating Don Lemon. And it kept having to go back to, they were shouting, shut this down. They were admitting they're trying to, prevent the worshiping, which violates the Faith Act. They. But that's not who we're talking about. Don Lemon wasn't doing that. And again, I'm blanking on the other names involved, but there are also at least one other journalist who's been swept up in this. And so I think that's really what demonstrates a little bit of weakness in his argument about the First Amendment issue and the targeting of a journalist issue, which it's because of who he is and because he happens to be more liberal, but he wasn't there as a liberal. He was there as a journalist covering it. And then I can't tell if the clips I grabbed has this moment. I hope it does. But at one point, Tyler O'Neill says that Don Lemon was number one, he used the word invading the church, which is a funny way to describe walking into a church that's open during a service. But then he was using this really aggressive terminology for how he walked up to interview the pastor as if he was like charging him.
I think those cases are different, but I don't defend the pardons of January 6th.
That's good. Okay.
I would not call them protesters, especially not when you're invading the Capitol like that. Now, there are questions I will mention about why I've tried to get into the Capitol, like I've walked around the Capitol, and just of no intent of doing anything wrong. Capitol Police will block you from even setting foot on one step of the Capitol. And that raises a lot of questions to me as to how these people were able to fully get in there.
No,
but
it doesn't.
Once you go into the Capitol and once you're removing material.
So this is funny. A lot of even the conservatives like him who are willing to admit that Trump should not have pardoned January 6ers. Thus, he takes away some of the hypocrisy of pretending like he cares about this, but then justifies January 6th. But then they always still kind of try. So even the ones who admit it's wrong still have to add a caveat of, but something was suspicious about how all this all happened, which they're trying to allude to. Maybe there was something to do with law enforcement scheming to frame, like that's what they're alluding to. And it almost bothers me more as opposed to the people who just really seem brainwashed out of their mind. The ones who know it's wrong, but still try to throw a little bit of red meat to the followers.
From Nancy Pelosi's office, and once you're doing this sort of thing, that is utterly unacceptable. And
sure, Luke, a brief word on this, and then I do have a follow-up question for you about it.
Yeah, I know we're not trying to shift into a whole January 6th.
Yeah,
and I do appreciate that you're willing to say that Trump was wrong on that, and it kind of diminishes any argument he can ever have about back in the blue or being against violence whenever, if you do it on his behalf.
That's not what I said.
He'll pardon you. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I thought you were going all the way in the moral direction. Whoops. But with how did they get in? If you're not expecting that a mob of people, because the president, yes, said patriotically among a bunch of other provocative statements, send you down to the Capitol, and then there's way too many people for the Capitol Police resources to deal with, then yeah, them backing away, as you made it sound like I've tried to walk into the Capitol before and the Capitol Police stopped me, because it was you walking in and not bashing their faces in and breaking windows. So it's not like a strange mystery as to how people got in the Capitol. We watched them get in the Capitol violently. And the reason that sometimes the Capitol Police backed off was because when it's 1v300, then you're probably going to have to back away at some point.
So I don't want to relitigate all of this, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So classic. If someone feels like they're maybe losing an argument, but I don't want to put in win-lose. We're just expressing our different stances. But if someone does feel cornered, maybe we'll say, in a debate context, get ready for the whataboutism, okay? Because, and it's not wrong to check people's consistency, but anytime you're talking about January 6th, they're going to bring up BLM protests and Antifa. Let's see.
I do condemn violent Antifa.
I think
all the violent riots in 2020?
During BLM, yes, 100%. Again, I'm consistent. I'm not a partisan hack.
Appreciate both of that from
Whoops. So it's like, yeah, even if people who agree more with my worldview do violence as a form of protest, I'm against it. And the way he asks it makes him think he's about to corner me. It's like, nope, yeah, denounce. And then he sort of, what? Which then makes me sad about how many people choose partisanship over principle. Because if you're standing on business, no, if you're standing on principle, then wait, can we get it? Let's get it. 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 Let's get it.
It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
That's essentially what I was trying to say to him in the debate. You never really have to squirm around in debates because you just say what's actually true. Like, you don't have to just go, wait, how do I fit into my partisan mold if you're not choosing that? And instead you're choosing principle. All right, one other clip on this topic, then we'll get to the gay marriage.
Don't do your job and you'll just recycle press releases. But Luke, more broadly on free speech, your thoughts on Trump living up to those bold promises or maybe not so much?
Yeah, okay, let me just quickly demonstrate something, Tyler. Imagine that Brad brought up a clip of some Democrat being like, Joe Biden is the most mentally fit that he's ever been, and he's just sharp as a tack, and nothing has changed in the last decade. And I responded with, yeah, well, there's different ideas on this subject, and people debate it, and maybe some people have a point, but like, I think that's generally correct. You'd be like, that's so ridiculous. Like, just be honest. I think even if you like Trump, you can't say you like him or you believe.
And that was me mimicking what he was doing with Trump, which was, okay, he did go after this journalist. Oh, he did do this thing. Oh, he did violate the First Amendment this way. But like, there's different arguments on it. And I actually think in a general, it's so obvious what he actually believes versus what he's trying to say to still support Trump.
Within the context of liking him, that he's been strong on the First Amendment. He's been going berserk. He admits that. He will say, aside from what his administration does, he will say, like I said, I want Pam Bondi to bring RICO cases against those pink whatever protesters who said I was Hitler. Insane. Or the government, this is a quote, should come down hard on MSNBC. And then he started doing that, right? He brings these ridiculous lawsuits against CBS, for example, while they're trying to get a merger to go through. He's withholding the merger, preventing them from making a bunch of money to force them, threatening them into settling with him and paying him off a bribe. He's like open, and you have to do me favors and you can't cross me too much, otherwise I'm going to sue you. The New York Times, he's done that as well, and then leverages his government power to punish you until you go ahead and pay him through a settlement. What I see is essentially a bribe. Even in the cases of the lies that were told in the aftermath of the ICE shootings, you have these people exercising their First Amendment, and then they get killed, and then the Trump administration comes out and lies about that. That one has to do with the First Amendment and what y'all previously cared about, which was the Second Amendment in the case of Alex Preddy. You have like Miles Taylor being investigated for a book he wrote that Trump didn't like. Obviously, the whole James Comey case and them shopping around to different prosecutors and firing people if they won't bring a case, proving that it's a weak and flimsy case, has nothing to do with them really being concerned that Comey lied, that a leak that actually was beneficial to Trump's campaign happened under his watch at the FBI. So, that's obviously last thing because he doesn't like what Comey said about him. So these are his
part of the First Amendment allows you to block ICE from carrying out deportations.
That's not what I said.
Part of the First
Alex
Amendment
Preddy was not blocking them from. Did you see him like waving people along? Here, come by. He was just shouting.
You said Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Yeah, and also
Renee Good
if you look at
also ushered a
Renee
car
Good,
through.
whose car had just hit an ICE officer before he opened fire.
I gave you a bunch of examples. I zeroed in on the First Amendment example, saying that sometimes you could find there was obstruction going on in the ICE protests, but that the willingness, even in cases where they were abiding by the law while they were protesting that spiraled into even death scenarios, and the willingness to lie about that is an example of them not caring about people's ability to protest. Yes, some of them get chaotic, and sometimes people do things that I don't support during protests, but then what about like the rest of the list that I did?
Well, so
just be honest. Go, that's bad. Why is he doing that?
What? You did throw out a lot there, though, Luke. Like a million.
This is all
things.
in the context.
Well, I think that says something.
Let me return what you said.
That is funny to go, hey. You said a lot of ways Trump was violating the First Amendment. Don't expect him to contend with one of them. It's like, no, exactly. That long list is proof of my point. And then he tries to get down in the weeds on like, was someone obstructing before an unjustified killing? It's like, okay, if you need the perfect only attack on the First Amendment with no other surrounding factors, hey, here's the rest of the list if you'd like to engage with it. But he doesn't want to. Let's keep listening.
Luke Beasley, what you said about January 6th. When you said that you wanted things to be aggressively prosecuted because, and I agree with you, January 6th was an egregious situation. Do you think that people should be aggressively prosecuted when they invade a church in the middle of service? When people are trying to worship God? I mean, the First Amendment, which also protects religious freedom, the free exercise of religion.
Was that rhetorical? Yeah. So if there was a story of people beating police officers to get into a church, kicking through the windows, climbing into the church, and then chanting that they wanted to hang the pastor, I do think an example should have been made out of those people as well.
You don't think that interrupting
Stop using the word
middle
invaded.
of service...
They walked into an unlocked door. Like, okay,
well,
the law was broken.
Okay, so you get the point. I think you get both of our stances there. But notice, I don't even know if he was very aware of some of the things I listed with the First Amendment violations, even ones Brad brought up, not in the clips that I showed you, but at a different point, and then just brings it back to January 6th. And it's like, well, if you think an example should have been made out of the January 6ers because you want to really discourage in a functioning democratic republic people trying to violently obstruct elections from being certified, if you think an example should have been made out of them, which I said previously in the debate, and I obviously stand by, then don't you think an example should be made out of people who shouted in a church? What? What's the through line there? So then I laid out, if the same thing happened at a church that happened on January 6th, number one, actually, as much as I want people's ability to worship to be protected, you also still wouldn't have the angle of protecting our entire system of government, which is why the prosecution on January 6th was so important, to discourage that anti-democratic behavior. But yeah, I would also be horrifically outraged if people violently attacked a church. Yeah, that's not what happened here. So I don't even understand what that comparison was. Very strange. Now we get to the topic of gay marriage. And to discuss that topic, they brought on an expert, a gay liberal. Okay? They got an expert. As it describes in the thumbnail. And then a Christian conservative as he is described. And what you're going to see in this first clip is the video that Tyler O'Neill was promoting from this organization that's trying to overturn marriage equality, that makes the whole argument about marriage equality is bad for children. And that is what you're going to see get thoroughly debunked later in the debate. But here's the video that Tyler O'Neill sort of is debating on.
From their launch video.
We now have these trite phrases like love makes a family, or all you need is just love. As long as your physical needs are met and someone is cheering you on, then apparently you'll grow up fine.
But the kids aren't fine. The kids haven't been fine for quite some time.
You redefine marriage, you have just destroyed the house. You can put together a new house and claim it's the same. Children will know the difference. It harms children in virtually every way imaginable.
We're prioritizing the fantasies of adults, no matter how earnestly those fantasies are felt, over the real needs and the real good of children.
Redefining marriage robs children of the natural right to their mother and father.
And it puts adult desires over children's needs. It has to stop. Children
are greater.
Children
are greater.
Children are greater
than equal.
And it's time.
So children are greater than equal. Okay? So what's the argument there? The argument's pretty clear, which is that they are asserting that allowing same-sex couples to get married harms children. That's the argument. So you would think if you were making that argument, you'd have some damn strong evidence before you swing that around. But what fascinated me was something I've already researched plenty in the past, and as I was refreshing myself on the data, it is the exact opposite. Marriage equality is good for children. Repealing it would be bad for millions of children. And I'll lay that out. But I was so confused by how Tyler didn't have even any contradictory data or research or even just logic that he could explain as to how in some way, this hasn't shown up in any particular analysis, but I think it could be bad because of blank. He didn't even have that. He would just go back to, I think that a man and a woman. Well, the man and the women still have the babies and the marriage. That's not being taken away. Do you there has to be one conservative that hears same-sex marriage or marriage equality and thinks it means that only gay marriages are allowed or something, because the way they talk about it acts as if it's to the detriment of opposite sex couples, which it's not. And so what's so interesting is the strongest argument for marriage equality is that it strengthens families that would already exist, but it provides legal protections. It provides benefits. It provides stability. And so for that to be the case, just based on empirical data, and for them to try to leverage the same issue being children is so dishonest. And you'll see Tyler doesn't really have a way to defend his stance. Let's listen.
Just a quick point of clarification, Tyler, because I'm not as interested in, based on the video I saw that you posted, debating whether or not a strong legal challenge could be brought. It's like, that'll be litigated, we'll see. But aren't we more discussing the principle of it? Like, you're not saying you would support enshrining gay marriage through a different legal means, and you just believe the way it was ruled on was not constitutional. You don't want gay marriage, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so then let's litigate that, because the video just acts
it doesn't
like,
talk about legal arguments. It talks about kids.
It talks about kids, and it acts like we all just know that the data points towards children do worse in same-sex households. And if you're going to try to argue that, you're going to get bodied, Tyler, because the body of, oh my gosh, I sound so like Newsom right now, of medical and scientific research.
You're going to get bodied because the body of evidence is something nobody can dispute. Okay, buddy? I started doing that Newsom, like, reusing a word over and over thing on accident. Watch that one more time.
And if you're going to try to argue that, you're going to get bodied, Tyler, because the body of, oh my gosh, I sound so like Newsom right now, of medical and scientific research points to the exact opposite conclusion. And I can go through some of that if you want. I don't know how much time I have. I have a bunch of different references that we can go through if you're interested. But the real, like, if you zoom out, the real argument here is, as Brad said, no matter what you do, you're not changing the fact that already like 2 to 3 million kids are in same-sex households, that same-sex couples are going to have kids through all sorts of different means. Even if it's they bring a kid into a marriage that was from a previous heterosexual relationship, it's a fact of our world that same-sex couples are going to be couples, and then some of them are going to have kids. And so if the whole argument is we want to do what's best for the children, then I can tell you, your activism only has a chance at removing the marriage component, which just means you're trying to make life worse for the children who would already be in same-sex homes. And that's what we see when you remove those legal protections, as referenced by Brad, the different benefits that come with marriage and the stability and the likelihood of couples staying together and building a more stable long-term family. If you remove that, the kids still exist, the couples still exist, but the well-being of the children just gets worse. So it's
Tyler,
like, wait,
yeah, so
why
I'll
are you
put a
citing
question
children?
to you, and I am not going to yell at you, not going to call you names.
Okay, let's see. I don't want to just play me. That'd be awkward. Maybe Brad talks or Tyler talks here. But remember to click the subscribe button. That's really important. Jade's giving me the cue. Click the subscribe button. Click the like button. Thank you so much. I am going to read comments. I know it's a long segment. I will get back to reading comments and thanking people for becoming members. But that's the big argument, just so you know. If they're trying to cite children, I'll go through in a little bit here the massive batch of research that contradicts the idea that kids are worse off in same-sex homes. And once you realize that, then you say, okay, what would removing gay couples' ability to get married do then? It would not change any of the facts on the ground other than less stability, less legal protections, as I'll cite specifics on at some point in this. And one example that I'm sure I'm going to go through is after marriage equality, child poverty in same-sex homes declined. So it's like an example of you give more financial stability and all these different forms of, I come back to that word, foundational stability that you would be removing, but then that's all you're doing. You're just making it worse for the children in same-sex homes. It's crazy that he would go into a debate not knowing some of those figures. Let's keep listening.
But Luke, first, just your thoughts.
Okay, again, I'm not trying to be mean, but that was a crazy, crazy word salad, and you didn't address at all what I just explained, which is...
Okay, well, to be fair to him, take that down, Jaden. Let's see if we can get a little bit of his take so you can hear what I'm responding to.
Names. I genuinely want to earnest dialogue about this.
No, you guys have been... Yeah.
My main question is, shouldn't they just be honest? Because it sounds to me like basically everyone in that video wants to ban gay people from having kids, right? Wants to make it illegal for gay people to adopt, probably make surrogacy illegal, probably make sperm donation illegal. That at least should be, if what they believe, what they're saying in the video, that should be what they're calling for. Do you understand why it's strange to me that they're conflating this with the marriage question?
Well, so to some degree, I understand why you think that's strange. Marriage as an institution historically has been about procreation. And that's one of the main reasons why the government recognizes marriage in the first place. So this whole debate does involve the children. So the questions of whether kids do best in which circumstances. So they were saying, and I think the data generally stands, that kids do best in when they're raised with their biological mother and their biological father. But that does not mean that there aren't confounding variables. That does not mean that kids who are in same...
So now you get what I'm about to call a word salad. It's just a bunch of and parent and father and dad and yeah. So then here's me.
Your thoughts?
Okay, again, I'm not trying to be mean, but that was a crazy, crazy word salad, and you didn't address at all what I just explained, which is if all that video talked about was children, we have to put children over equal. But if you don't prioritize equal in this case with what we're talking about with gay marriage, you're doing what's worse for the children. Let me go just really quickly. All the following organizations agree that children by same-sex parents do just as well, and as Brad referenced in some studies, better for different reasons, than those raised by opposite-sex parents. The American Academy of Pediatrics, American Psychological Association, American Medical Association, American Sociological Association. That's based on decades of peer-reviewed research. The few studies that contradict that have wild methodological issues, and this is measuring emotional health, academic performance, behavioral issues, substance abuse, delinquency, social development. What does matter? So those all things stay the same based on same-sex versus opposite sex. What does matter is not the sexual orientation of the parents, but the parental stability, economic stability, low conflict at home, access to legal protections. And you can hear as I'm listing those, marriage, allowing couples that would already exist with kids who would already exist to get married, just enshrines more of those factors that improve the well-being of the children. That's what the research actually demonstrates. An example of this is that child poverty among kids in same-sex households declined after marriage equality became a reality. So just try to engage with that as opposed to just a bunch of language about a mom and a dad. Yeah, we love the moms and the dads with families. And also, there's other families that you would just be worsening the conditions for the kids if you removed their parents' ability to be married, because of if one parent dies and the other one's not technically legal parent and they're not married, then all of a sudden you have this instability for the kid, or the ability for the insurance of the employer of a parent to be used for the child, the financial stability that comes with marriage. All those things you would be wanting to remove, not to mention the more societal dedication.
Let's give Tyler a response.
Not
to mention the societal dedication that marriage represents that causes people to stay together longer, which is good for the kids. So engage with that, please.
Well, you said their parents. And I think that is fundamentally the issue here, is when we're talking about same-sex couples and adopting. Now, some kids may be better off being adopted by a same-sex couple than being in an orphanage when their situations are worse otherwise. But we're talking, children come from a mother and a father. And there are some technologies that they've developed that have a lot of moral complications. I mean, do you know the surrogacy issue, the issue of how many how many embryos they make with IVF. Like there are a lot of concerns that people have, and I think they're legitimate moral concerns.
But that's not just gay people. That's vastly also done by heterosexual people.
Yes, as we've established here, this campaign is not just about overturning same-sex marriage in Obergefell. It's about trying to get to a place where children are given their right to be raised by their biological mother and their biological father is paramount. And that is the foundation of family law.
You posted
That's
this
what
just
these
real
people
quick.
are going
A
for.
broad coalition of pro-family groups is organizing to overturn Obergefell. You just said it's not about overturning Obergefell.
It's not just about overturning Obergefell. If you look at the website, yeah. Well,
but that is definitely the focus.
Okay, so you see, is this as irritating to watch as for me as it is for y'all? What are you saying, Tyler? What you saying? He says it's not about Obergefell, and then later he says just about Obergefell. It's like, okay, well the post says it's about Obergefell, and if that's what you are advocating for, people don't understand this sometimes. Then you have to be able to argue that. I don't care that you know English and you speak a bunch of words in a row. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. You need to engage with what it is that you posted. I didn't post about it. You posted that you're supporting a campaign to overturn marriage equality. Why? Because it's better for the children. I just showed you a bunch of data. Not better for the children. Worse for the children. And then to be like, well, all we're saying is in general, we need to, I don't know anything about the policy of it actually, I don't know. But I'm just saying we got to get back to when men and women were parents. But first of all, that's not, men and women get humping and have kids. I don't know, do it, okay? That's a separate issue from the couples and families that will already exist in same-sex homes. Now, to Brad's point, if what you're saying, if what you really don't want to admit is that you want to figure out how to, strip away the millions of kids already in same-sex homes, then ban any surrogacy just for gay people maybe, but also maybe for straight couples who have fertility issues or something, and you're going to shut down all the IVF clinics, and you're going to ban gay adoption, and you're going to let certain kids never have a home they could have otherwise had that data proves is just as good for their outcomes as an opposite-sex home because of your random feeling on this that's not attached to the facts at all. Is that really what you're saying? Because right now you're just advocating for the overturning of marriage equality, which I just explained would have bad consequences. And completely removing same-sex couples' ability to have kids would have bad consequences. And that's why caring a little bit about the empirical figures on this is important. Because it's not like it's something that hasn't ever been looked into. We know. Children do just as well in same-sex homes. And then Brad brings up a good example, I think it's here, of a friend of his who is a product of a sperm donor. So female parents and a sperm donor. And his point is like, you're acting as if a kid's being taken away from a happy, healthy, opposite-sex family and then put into a same-sex family. But many of the kids we're talking about just wouldn't exist, it sounds like, in your ideal world. You just wouldn't want them to exist.
Data that were not accurate, and they're slowly walking back, and we've seen challenged. I mean, look, we can't just blindly trust the experts, right? The argument I think we've seen through COVID and then through some of the gender stuff Tyler mentions, the analysis doesn't just stop with what the American Medical Association says.
Yeah, I'd rather trust the experts than Tyler, but I agree. That's why
Oh, he went there. Bodied. You need an ice pack because you just got burned.
Says.
Yeah, I'd rather trust the experts than Tyler, but I agree. That's why I was trying to explain that you can also look at the studies and how they conducted it and interact with the data yourself, which you can also do with trans-related studies, which is what people...
Okay, so then this is not the clip I was thinking of, but then I go on to explain, you don't have to blindly trust the experts to engage with the research. And hey, do you have any counter research? No. And the ones you do, I could explain to you why they're so methodologically whacked. then I think this is when Brad asked the question about his friend who's a product of two moms who got a sperm donor.
To some extent, but feel free to draw a distinction if it's there, is that they did something wrong by using a sperm donor and bringing in a child not to be into the world, not to be raised by its biological mother and biological father. When you say things like all children have a natural right to be raised by their biological mother and father, I mean, I think the world is better off because my friend exists and her parents had a family. But do you also, what would you say that coalition would say as well?
Well, so I think every person is made in the image of God, and there is no person that I would say you shouldn't exist. I lament the death of every person, and I lament the death of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. And I don't think that your inherent moral dignity as a human being is reliant on the circumstances of your conception. But I do think that when we're looking at the way that society...
So what is he saying? He might as well have sung, I don't want to be a chicken, I don't want to be a duck, I don't want to be... That meant nothing. Yeah, you hate loss of life and you love life. That wasn't the question. In your ideal world, it sounds like you don't want his friend to ever have been born. Say it. Say it, Tyler.
That when we're looking at the way that society is organized, I support the idea that marriage between a man and a woman should be the bedrock of our society.
No, we heard that, but why? It is, too. Almost all the marriages are between men and women. Whoa. Why we trigger you so much? Just try to have our life.
Not mean that I think she shouldn't exist. That doesn't mean, I think we need to work these things out. No, it doesn't.
It does. If you're saying in the ideal world you would cut down on those type. I mean, you're not saying that she specifically, now that she already does exist, should die, but you do think in the future there should be less of hers.
I mean, maybe put it this way. Put it this way, Tyler, as a yes or no.
Enough.
Sorry, Luke, but as a yes or no, did they do something immoral by creating her with a sperm donor? Yes or no, Tyler?
I mean, I think
you can say yes. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to call you any names. I promise. I at least would say that I think the majority of the people in this coalition would say yes. I think.
Yeah, I think
he eventually goes on to say yes. Gosh, he eventually says yes. He thinks it's immoral. So, that's cray, huh? And again, it would be different if they're like, we have these decades of research suggesting that kids just have terrible outcomes in same-sex homes. But it's the opposite. So then what are you doing? And then they're like, well, my religious view says it's only between a man and a woman. Hey, cool. Go to your church. Sorry, we're talking about the government. Go to your church. In all honesty, homophobe your way till on Sunday. Homophobe every day till Sunday. I don't care. Just stop bothering me about it. And then we're talking about a government, a secular government that created an institution of marriage as well. So in churches, you're not forced. I'm going to make this point in a second. You're not forced to do a gay marriage. I don't know why you wouldn't. They're hella chic. But you're not being forced. So if it's your religious view that's man and woman, cool. But you don't have any data to back up better outcomes. If you think it's God's intention, okay, that's your religion. Go do your religion in your religion place, sir.
I believe, but that's your belief. Luke, final word to you on this topic. And I apologize for taking moderator's prerogative here a little bit, but...
No, it's okay. So yeah, that's unfortunate. And it's funny because you can tell, I think, when an argument is weak, when the person, with all due respect, has to kind of fall back on like nice sounding phrases, but can't really engage in the specifics or the real world consequences of their ideology. So just sort of like, I believe was a man and a woman, something. And it's like none of, at least I can't speak for every random activist out there, but none of my ideology, and I know Brad's, is attempting to take away from straight couples and their ability to build a wonderful family. And one of the things you said interested me because you made it sound like in the marriage equality world, you're looked down upon if you have your view on marriage. And it's like, first of all, what percent? I looked it up and it was like anywhere from 89 to 99% of marriages in the United States are straight couples. So it's like, that is still, to your point, like the primary instance of marriage. And then churches aren't required to even honor and conduct gay marriages. So then your feeling of like, but we can't have our view. Yeah, you can. And then we just have ours and then everyone is happy. Yay.
All right, Tyler, brief response to you, then we'll wrap up here.
The main point is not that it's not this big divide between, yes, there are more straight marriages than there are gay marriages. But when you're talking about the stance that marriage is between a man and a woman, this conservative Christian, Jewish, Muslim stance, that is being demonized in the culture. And that's what I'm talking about. That's where you have groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center that essentially exist. They raise all their money by comparing people who hold this position to the Klan. And that's real.
Whatever.
And
all right, guys.
It's very interesting how you have all this fun talk that my arguments are weak, but then you're like, oh yeah.
That argument didn't. That's because it was such a random side point. If you feel like people are being mean to you, I'm sorry. Guess what? You want to hear the things people say about gay marriages? They're also really mean about them coming in the other direction. I want everyone to stop being mean, including liberals to conservatives. But I also want, based on data, to create the best society for everyone, for people who have straight marriages, who think it should only be that way. I want them to have the best life and I want their family to be great. And then I also want, which we see in the research, for families relating to same-sex couples to have the best outcomes for their children. I want what they pretend like they want in that video. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm done.
All right, guys.
Yeah, that's a funny argument to be thinking. We have to overturn Obergefell because libs are mean to us if we don't support marriage equality. Well, you want to see my DMs? It's like, what? Your ideology is informed by how mean people are to you who disagree with you? That's life, brother. And trust me, the people who don't like gay marriage, who see thumbnails with the gay liberal and want to go contact him in an aggressive way, not very nice. Not very nice. But that doesn't make me want to revoke opposite sex marriage. Luke Beasley for president, only gay marriage. So I don't really know. Tyler, that's, again, I say it with love. You failed to make your argument, I would say. And it's funny because you're associating with a group that has this as their mission and a swanky video with cool music. You'd think they have thought about it, but all they can conjure up is, I personally believe this despite the data. And you're like, okay, then go personally believe that. But you aren't making a very strong argument to convince the rest of us. Moving forward, before we get to the next story, Leandro Sarich said, regards from Switzerland. I hope you guys will be able to eventually repair the reputational damage you have suffered due to this administration. Me too. Josh Johnston, excuse me, has been a member for 4 months, said, yo, Luke, me again. Hello. Charcity, right? Has been a member for 7 months, said, eek. Yeah. You said it. Intuition Genesis sent 5 gifted memberships. I appreciate it. Carl Reasoner has been a member for 7 months. Said, keep on keeping on, Luke, Cole, and Jaden. Loved the pre-show with Green Day, and Bad Bunny was groovy AF. Kenny G's Dingling sent 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Mr. Dingling. Bobby Slack said, much love to you, Jaden, and Clean Beautiful Cole.
Clean, beautiful Cole.
Much love to all of my fellow Beasley beasties. We keep coming up with new terms. Uncommonly Common Sense said, show live action yeet yeet. So true. And then sent 20 gifted memberships. What? Y'all are getting gifted memberships central. Thank you so much. Intuition Jen sent 5 gifted memberships. Gemini said government needs to stay out of our personal business. All they need to know is how much taxes we owe. True that. And listen, if they came and saw my personal business, I think they'd like it. But they need to stay out of it. It cracked me up. I was just talking to somebody and they were saying, listen, I don't get the whole gay thing. But whatever you do behind when the door's closed and locked is your business. And I was like, it's not that crazy. You're making it sound like some horrific event. It's not that crazy. It's like sort of what you experience, just slightly different. And then a gift of membership from Gemini or Gemini Jen. And then Anupam Banerjee, 1, 2, 3, send 5 gifted memberships. I appreciate you so much. Thank you to everybody. I will read more of those in a second, but this is on the topic we just reviewed. Native Naturalist said, the children talking point is always strange to me. I volunteer here in Cali at a creative writing nonprofit, and we had to have ICE raid training so that they don't traumatize the kids at the school. It's disappointing. Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about? As if they're universally trying to protect the kids. Not so much. Let's talk about this. Footage has been revealed from inside of Ghislaine Maxwell's former prison cell. And we're going to look at that and talk about kind of what I make of it in a second here. But first, also on the Ghislaine Maxwell issue, you have the House Oversight Committee, if I'm not mistaken, conducting a deposition with Ghislaine Maxwell. And let's see how that went.
The Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, has emerged from that hearing and informed all of us that Ghislaine Maxwell has decided to take the Fifth Amendment and refuse to answer any questions. Listen to what he's saying.
Everybody ready? As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the Fifth and refused to answer any questions. This obviously is very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. We sincerely want to get to the truth for the American people and justice for the survivors. That's what this investigation is about. I want to mention the next steps. We can confirm we have 5 more depositions in the book scheduled for the Epstein investigation.
So what is this Epstein investigation really about for James Comer? It's not about justice, I can tell you that. Now, it doesn't mean this investigation won't be able to be used in some way for justice. Democrats are trying to leverage their power to make this a little bit more rational. But we've seen they've been wanting to use the investigation in many cases as an effort to distract by all means necessary from any revelations about Trump or people that they like. And it's hard. Well, it's hard to trust the people who participated in the cover-up for so long until they were forced into releasing the Epstein files to conduct an investigation. It wasn't like James Comer was out there calling out Trump for the month-long cover-up that continues to this day. So I don't trust them very much. But here you have Trump administration latest Ghislaine Maxwell pleads Fifth during House deposition. Here was a notable takeaway I heard from a lot of people. Interesting that Ghislaine Maxwell pled the Fifth here when she didn't in her conversation with Todd Blanche, you might remember. And before she had that conversation with Todd Blanche, this was her living situation. Much more fitting, much more deserving for someone who committed the horrific crime she did. You can see this as a time lapse. And now, as I'll keep playing it while I read this from Ed Krasenstein, Trump, he said, this is the life that Ghislaine Maxwell was deservingly living before Trump's DOJ moved her to a lower security prison that has been compared to a country club. Shortly after Maxwell met in late July 2025 with Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is the same Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who recently said the review is over. The review of the Epstein files is over. We're done. Even though a majority still has not been released. This was the prison that she was in. And now we have actual video of that. And as Ed Krasenstein says, put her back in prison as opposed to this club that she's at now with puppy camps, and she's getting preferential treatment based on reporting. Guards are saying, I feel like I'm being treated as Ghislaine's bitch was the wording they used. We're having to cater to her every needs after this change. She's getting to meet with people against protocol. The prison will, or the prison camp club will get shut down so she can go have a meeting. What is that about? And that came after she did speak with Todd Blanche behind closed doors. But then now something that's going to be more publicly available and that has the chance for, I'm assuming, Democrats to also ask questions. Now she's pleading the fifth. I do think that's extremely, extremely notable. Here is Ro Khanna after this.
I submitted to Comer a letter with 6 or 7 questions. Things like, who were the other co-conspirators? Who were the other men who raped these underage girls? Did she have any conversations about a deal with Donald Trump? Now, she's taken a blanket Fifth Amendment on any question. And my view is that many of my questions don't in any way incriminate her. So we'll see what she does. But there's 7 questions that I have specifically asked. And the assumption is she's pleading the fifth to each one of those. And the American people will see that there's an inconsistency. Why did she not plead the fifth when Blanche asked her questions? And now she's pleading the fifth about things that don't implicate her, but may implicate many of the other powerful people in the Epstein class that committed these crimes.
I mean, one thing I would suggest is it possible she knows if she did reveal more, she might not get the benefits that she's getting now at the new place against their rules around which prisoners can go where. She was transferred to a prison she's not supposed to be allowed to go to. This minimum security Bryan, Texas camp. That's the country club of prisons. You think she knows that if she incriminated someone, that she would have those privileges revoked? Feels all too possible. Let's talk about this next. I want to show you Chris Christie leaked something about Lindsey Graham that just might shock you, or maybe not. And I know what you're thinking, Luke. Is he going to tell us a story of 3 gay prostitutes and a sweaty Lindsey Graham in a Motel 6? No, that's not what this is about. Okay, so don't be getting your weirdo ears vibrating.
Damn it.
I know, a bunch of people just clicked off the video. But it's still very interesting. And let's talk about that with Chris Christie, who's obviously a more anti-Trump Republican.
So I want to know, what do Republicans say to each other when we're not listening about what's happening in America right now?
Look, so many of my fellow party members, especially come up to me because I say all this stuff out loud, and they in the green room at ABC, they'll say, "You're so brave. That's so great. I totally agree with you. He's nuts." And then they go out on camera to be interviewed. They are the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln, you know? And then they come back in the green room and they say to me, I have to do that, but I don't really mean it. That's what they say.
Like who specifically?
Finally, someone asked that. Credit to Bill Maher. The amount of times I've seen Republicans on TV going, the amount of Republicans who secretly come up to me, the most pro-Trump ones, and say, he's insane. I wish I could say what you say. And then they go say something positive about him. And the hosts are like, wow, really? And they never ask who. Because what were you protecting Lindsey Graham's privacy? Who cares?
That's what they say.
Like who specifically?
Bill, overtime's not long enough to give you all the names, but I'll give you one. Lindsey Graham.
I love that someone acted surprised by that. Did you hear someone? Wow! Listen to this. Ready? Get real quiet. Wait.
But I'll give you one. Lindsey Graham.
Whoa! Oh, well, Lindsey? No way, Lindsey! The guy who publicly said he hated Trump until it wasn't politically advantageous. Not a shock.
One. Lindsey Graham. Which, by the way, was what he was saying when he was running for president in 2016. But I guess if you get invited to play golf, then off you go.
Well, knock me over with a feathered boa that I'm wearing with a silk robe.
So Lindsey Graham is an example of the cowards who behind the scenes go, this guy's a kook. But we know that. I don't have to show you the clips again, but we know Lindsey Graham was out there saying Trump is a race-baiting bigot who's lying to you, and the famous tweet was, if the Republican Party nominates Trump for president, it will destroy the Republican Party and will deserve it. And now he's like, I think Trump is Reagan plus. He always says that. Oh my gosh, guys, wait. If you're watching this segment for me, you're like, oh, I gotta get to my next thing. I gotta go watch TikTok. Wait for a second. Lindsey Graham, Reagan plus. Oh, please. This clip was so funny of Trump totally disregarding Lindsey Graham. Look at this.
You know, I will say this. I think I can say, what do you think, Lindsey? My second term is blowing my first term away. And my first term was really good.
Reagan plus,
yeah. Well, whatever. Thank you very much.
No one likes him. Not even the guy he's sucking up to. Look at this.
Reagan plus, yeah. Well, whatever. Thank you very much, everyone.
You're Reagan plus, Mr. President.
First term was really good.
Reagan plus,
yeah. Well, whatever. Thank you very much, everyone.
Maybe that's why Lindsey was so sad, because of him getting swat, just like backhanded like that. And so then after that press conference, he went and just got hammered and then went on Hannity.
I want sanctuary city policy to end.
Trump don't like me. Lindsey, what a shameful figure you are. You pitiful little man. And I mean little in the spiritual sense, not physically. We love our little neighbors. I'm not that tall even. I'm tall. If you don't ever see me in person, I'm really tall. If you see me in person, sometimes I'm less tall. And then another thing that Republicans are secretly fuming about, apparently Lindsey Graham's saying stuff to Chris Christie. Then you have other Republicans, as the Daily Beast here reports, pissed that Trump really doesn't seem to care enough about the midterms and he's sinking their chances. So the headline is Republicans secretly fuming with Trump as midterm disaster looms. Republicans are secretly angry. It's always in secret with President Trump because he sounds, detached and non-committal ahead of a potential midterm election disaster, according to White House insiders who spoke to the Washington Post. Republicans hold an anxiety-inducing ultra-slim majority in the House. This, coupled with the lack of direction from Trump, his slumping approval ratings, and signs of a Democratic rally in performance, has rankled some in the West Wing, sources told the Post. And you can see that this is showing up in a lot of ways. His general approval rating, and then you start diving into the numbers, and he's even just collapsing in support among the people that he used to do the best with. Here's Harry Hinton.
Funny thing about Donald Trump, you know that he built his two presidential victories on winning voters without a college degree, while Donald Trump's base with non-college voters is absolutely collapsing. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just take a look? Voters without a college degree on Donald Trump. Look at this. Back in 2024, he won those voters over Kamala Harris by 14 points. You come over to this side of the screen. What's his net approval rating with him? He is underwater by 9 points. That's a 23-point switcheroo with his base of non-college voters. He is absolutely collapsing with the group of voters that helped put him into the White House, Kate.
Okay, so how are these non-college voters feeling about 2026?
Okay, so you see this drop of 23 points, right? From plus 14 Trump to now he's underwater by 9 points. How is that impacting their views on how they're going to vote for Congress? Well, you see a similar story going on here, right? Take a look. In the 2024 election, Republicans won those voters, those non-college voters, by 13 points. Now they're just ahead by just 1, 2, 3, 4 points when you can count it on.
I love Harry so much. So the group that Trump historically does the best with, he's collapsing in support. Not to mention all the other groups that he made gains with in 2024. And what does that mean? Because obviously Trump's not running again, no matter how many times he says that he might. He's not going to. Or if he does, that hopefully will defeat that legally. But he is representative of the party that he made a cult of personality around him. And so he is collapsing the support of not just him, but the Republican Party around him. And that means there's a real shot the Democrats have a blue tsunami in the midterms, which would give them a lot of authority in the House and or Senate to do oversight, to kill bad ideas whenever Trump's trying to get them passed. Now, Trump's doing a lot just through executive order, so some of that you want to be able to stop, but they could actually start doing some reining in of his power, because the current Republican Congress has just gone, we don't exist. Trump just tells us what to do and we do it. And having an actual Congress to check the president like we're supposed to have in our system would make a big difference. And then if that momentum continues through 2028, obviously that would be good news. All right, a couple little comments here. Did I say Intuition Jen? Another 5 gifted memberships? How many gifted memberships? This is amazing. And then Rob Blackwell became a member by clicking the join button below. Again, getting a membership by clicking the join button, very simple on YouTube, is easy but powerful, both for how it supports us and the extra content you get. Think about all the stuff you've seen on our channel if you're not yet a member. Now imagine that after you watch any of that, or if you get sort of bored with a video, then you're like, I want something different. When you're a member, you get a whole nother like 20 to 30 minute, some days, bonus show where I just gab it up. And we talk about anything from a Kamala Harris announcement to, the sex scenes and heated rivalry, to my personal life, to whatever. And that's the beauty of it. And people say they love it. I don't say that, but people say they love the bonus show. So get it by clicking the join button below, or going over to YouTube if you're listening to the podcast and clicking the join button. That is today's show. I appreciate all of you oh so very much. Much love. Talk to you next time.